Welcome to the Honor It All podcast. I'm Honor Garrett, your host, and we're here to honor all that is good in the world. Each podcast, I interview top professionals around the globe who are making a difference, impacting lives, and creating positive change. Today, we have Lofa Tatupu, an outstanding college football player as a linebacker for the University of Southern California under Pete Carroll back in the day, and selected 45th overall in the 2005 NFL draft by the Seattle Seahawks. Lofa followed his father Mosi's footsteps as they both played at USC, and Lofa's father spending most of his career as a New England Patriot as fullback and special teams. What a special father-son connection that must have been. What I think makes Lofa so inspiring is his ability to take a challenging situation that many professional athletes face and turn it into his life's passion to help others. I'm so honored to have you here with me today, Lofa, as part of the Honor It All podcast. Welcome. How are you?
Wow, quite the intro. Thank you, Honor. And it's my honor to be here and a privilege. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm so glad. I've recently gotten to know your mother, Linnea, well, and it's so wonderful to get to know about your family. But what I want our listeners is to know more about you and how did you grow up with your father playing football and you being in that atmosphere. Do you have a big family? What was it like growing up?
Yeah, well, it was just me and my sister, who's 3 years older than Linnea. And then even though it was just the four of us, me and my dad, my mom and Naya, we slowly started taking in, family members that needed help. So like you said, helping others, it was kind of just at the forefront of how I grew up. We took in two cousins that needed somewhere to go. And then a couple of my dad's brothers and sisters that fell on some tough times out in Hawaii, just getting into some trouble and being in some tough scenes. They had to get away from it, get a new environment. And really, we watched them thrive, graduate high school and then even go to college. So it was incredible having the family around me that I did. But like you said, helping others was just kind of just, I think it was in my blood from the jump.
Wow, that's amazing. And so growing up, were you used to, just going to games, or were you actually busy playing your own games? What was the influence that your dad had with your love for football?
It was really both my parents. They were incredible human beings. And my dad playing football was my hero. And so you always want to do what dad does, at least I did. And so fell in love with the game as soon as I found a football and found out what it was. And just, I can remember from the time I was like 5, 6 years old, you can't play until you're 7 years old. And so I was, begging my parents to play at 5 because I was big enough. I was bigger than most of my friends and being half Samoan. And so, I was watching football from sun up till sundown. So when you talk about like the 10,000 rule to, master to mastery, by the time I got to college, I probably had 20,000, hours of film study. And I loved it. I loved everything about it. And while it was probably not my best sport, in our household, you had to play something every season just to keep you busy and active, right? I see a lot of kids just picking one sport these days, and I think they're really limiting themselves to seeing what else they're good at and learning, obtaining other skills. Basketball, baseball, all those things helped me get better at football, whether it was baseball situationally, basketball peripherally, and guarding your man on the ball. So that's where a lot of my interceptions came from in football. But it was sports played a huge role in our upbringing, and but football was the one I loved the most. Even though it was not my best sport, I had to work really hard at it. And but when you're doing something you love, it doesn't feel like work.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because my husband, as a football coach, always says, I don't like how everyone is specializing in one sport. We played everything. I played baseball, I played basketball, football, anything you could get your hands on, because it makes you a better overall athlete, and it makes you think differently in different situations.
Yeah.
And it's that club sport specialized thing that's really made people really just have one talent. What was your most talent? What was your best sport though? So you said,
Oh, baseball easily. I could walk out there, hit a couple home runs and pitch a no hitter. But it was just,
wow.
it was boring to me. Like, there's a lot of standing around and, just, but also to your point though, in playing all those other sports, not only does it teach you different skills, whether it's motor skills, communication, but I think the biggest thing is, when you're not the best at something and you're striving to be the best, you find your role on a team. And I think a lot of kids struggle to find their role on teams. Like, not everybody's going to be the leader, and so in football, for the longest time, I was not, while I was a 6-time captain in the NFL, I wasn't the captain in college. I wasn't a captain. I was captain 1 year in high school. So, and that's because largely it's when you're young, it's the greatest players. Those are the guys that are, and, I'm not ashamed to say it. I was not the greatest athlete on any of my teams, but football especially was something that I had to really work hard at and learn a role. And so, that's what I think on top of the skills athletically, I think the skills, as a person, those are the things they're lacking too when they don't try other new things and new sports.
Well, it makes a difference. My husband is coaching now at Lafayette College, which is a Division I, but SBF, the Patriot League. And it matters if you're smart and you know what you're doing. It matters if you have a really good work ethic. You're not going to be the biggest, best player in the world. So you really got to be smarter if you're not athletically gifted or physically gifted. So you really have to pull everything out. But I asked my husband, John, about your dad, and he said, oh, Lofa's dad, Mosi, was such an excellent player. And I wanted you to know that because
that means a lot to me.
He really thinks a lot of him. So, people assume that since you played football or you were a pro athlete, that you're so lucky you got to do something that so few people get to do, and you should be so grateful. And I think you are grateful, and I think most people are, but people don't realize some of the consequences that come with playing the game, and that's job instability and injury and the toll on your physical and mental health. Some navigate it really well, and then others don't. When you were in the game, did you love being part of the game?
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. Grateful, blessed, a dream come true. But then, like you said, double-edged sword, careful what you wish for. So like, the average fan, they just see Sundays and they see the crowd roaring and they see you making plays and then they see the contracts and things like, but the toll it takes on your soul. I mean, mental, physical, emotional well-being, like you just said. I absolutely loved being in the game, but I didn't realize the damage it was doing to me. And I think that's pretty much why my dad at an early age was pushing me to baseball. And I can't sit here and say I wish I listened to him, but I mean, I know what the lens he was looking through, his perspective, looking back on his 14-year career. I only played 6, but I exited with 10 surgeries and 15 plus concussions. So just when you speak about the sacrifice, it's, and then the other thing, just saying job instability, you don't know, are you going to have to uproot your family and go to another team? So I really consider myself pretty fortunate, even all things considered, but yeah, it's not easy. It's not as glamorous as they make it look. To say that.
I know, and people think that they make so much money to do what they do, but they're not in that rehab room with you every, getting the ice baths and getting all the rehab done, just so you can feel good enough to go out and play another game.
It's the truth. I mean, I think maybe I haven't really watched it, but Hard Knocks is probably bringing a little more of it to light, what they will show you. But at the end of the day, you're still human beings. And I think, because you're an athlete or a star athlete, people lose sight of that. But like, we have bad days too. We go home and, hopefully to a loving family, which I always did. Thank God. But it's, it's crazy. All that you have to put into it, just to show up, in some capacity of what they expect you to be. I mean, because from the first practice, you're never 100%. And, it's just, and you're just hoping like, hey, can I stay, somewhere above 80 or 90%? And then, it even gets to the point where towards the middle to the later half of my career, it was like, man, can I just make it through a season? Like you start having those conversations, and that's a dangerous road to go down when you're in there playing. It's like, man, I got people counting on me and I'm just trying to make it to Sunday. It's just crazy.
And then there's also life after football. And I imagine it's really difficult going from football is my life, it's all that I know, and now what? Like, how was that journey for you? And how did you feel after you left football? I know for my husband, it was hard and he didn't even get to play very long. How was it physically, emotionally, spiritually for you?
Physically, I just had to face the reality that I just couldn't do it anymore, not to the level that or the standard that I held for myself. And, as you mentioned, I made a Pro Bowl, was blessed to be one of the better players, or recognized as one of the best linebackers in the league. And so when you start to have that struggle and you're like, man, I'm just not who I used to be or who I can be because of these injuries, it takes a lot, it takes a toll on you. And so I think, coming to grips with that, and then, emotionally, is saying goodbye to something that was always there for you. This is why football is one of the greatest sports and also one of the loneliest. You can't just go down to the park, call 22 guys up and have a football game, right? Like, you better be really well.
It's not like picked up basketball.
Even baseball, they have baseball leagues. I know there's some semi-pro football, but it's at this point, with all the injuries you have, it's just not worth it. And so there is a definite, a period where you got to say goodbye to the game, and I'm talking the game. I know it's just a game, but it's always been there for you when you were a kid, no matter how bad life was or how tough it was, because, everyone goes through stuff growing up. And the football was always there for me, and then I think the bigger part, it wasn't like an identity crisis. I've heard of, some guys having that, where like, oh, who am I without football? That was never the case for me. The hardest part for me was not being part of a team. I loved being part of a team and just having that accountability peer to peer, people trying to get better on a daily basis. It's infectious. It's contagious. It's like, especially when you win a championship. We were blessed to do that in college, two national championships, and that's all you have on your mind is like, okay, where's the next ring? Where's the next ring? And so it's for me, I think saying goodbye to the game, wasn't so much like that was my purpose. My parents always told me, like, hey, football is just something you do. It's not who you are. And so I didn't get too wrapped up in that, but, luckily, and I say luckily, I was blessed. I was out of football for a year or two and my phone rang and I got the call to come back and coach football. So while it was tough, and I'm thankful, I'm grateful that, the phone did ring. John Schneider from the Seahawks called me and said, hey, I know you love football. You're a football guy, just like your husband. He's a football guy, right? And he's like, why don't you come back and help coach the linebackers? And I was like, you know what? I'm only like right now, I'm at home. My kid was 2 at the time. We only had 1 at the time. We were just having our second. I was like, yeah, I'll come coach. Like, I love football. Man. I'll come right back and do that.
Oh, that's great. So are you there now? What are you doing now?
I'm out here. So that was in 2014. And so 15 and 16, I coached with the linebackers. And it man, back part of a team, it was an incredible feeling, and quite the experience. Seeing it from the other perspective. Having sit in the chair as a student and now being the teacher, and then also under great coaches like Pete, had him in college, and then played for him for 1 year here in the NFL, and then now to be back on the staff and listen to how they talk about the team, how they talk about direction, how they talk about competition. Is very, so structured. I know everybody thinks, oh, Pete just likes to have fun. He's just a big kid out there. Yeah. It's again, one of those, misconceptions of, or of reality of like, yo, Pete grinds. He works as hard and he is one of the biggest competitors at anything. It doesn't matter. If there's a competition, he wants to win more than anybody. I mean, like I'm talking like with the likes of Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, like those guys that just, they have that hunger to win. And like, that's why he's still coaching. And that's why he stays so young. And so it was an incredible experience. And then I got to coach KJ Wright and Bobby Wagner, two of the greatest ever put on the uniform. So what, I don't know how good of a coach I was. Those guys were already studs, but
it makes a difference. It makes a difference. Now, it doesn't matter how good you are. We always, I'm a health life mindset coach. And even though I work and I help people gain clarity and really change their life, I will always have a coach. I mean, everybody needs that other person to help sharpen them.
Yes. Just keep you on track. Like, hey, you good? You good? You doing this? You keeping up? And yeah, absolutely. And so that's 15 and 16. That's what I did out here. And I didn't know it at the time, but it was a move that would pretty much save my life, from the many injuries, the physical, mental, and emotional trauma, the brain injuries, the concussions, all that. I felt like I was doing the best I could, but I didn't feel like I was living my life, not like I had been known to. And, just dealing with a whole host of issues on top of putting on like 35, 40 pounds. Like I gained a bunch of weight because, you're used to eating so many calories a day, but now, your body hurts so much, you can't even work out. I tried several times to get out there and go and work out. And it was again, having that conversation. It's like, love, you can't do this anymore. The move to coaching and coming back to Seattle would change and save my life, for a life that I knew, and so because of that, when I coaching was so many hours and my kids were so young, it was, as the commitment is real. And it was tough. I made the tough decision to stop coaching and spend more time at home. But in 14, I did buy some real estate that was zoned for recreational cannabis. And at the time just a real estate play. Me and my business partner, who was a former linebacker too, one of my brothers, Matt McCoy, we got into it just, learn something new. If you're going to learn something new. And we had no history or experience in running a business, creating a brand, and selling a product. But we just worked as hard as we could. And so we ended up taking over operations, growing the actual product ourselves, selling and distributing to retail stores. It was like, I didn't go to school for business. I didn't even graduate, but I knew, I know a lot about business now that I was running with one of my best friends and brothers. And when I was in the industry, I was hearing more and more about CBD as opposed to THC, because I'd gone back to the cannabis plant as a more natural remedy for inflammation, all the stuff that I was dealing with physically and emotionally and mentally even. And, it still didn't seem to agree with me too much. So, but I started hearing about CBD and I was like, okay, so what is it? What is it not? Because we're still in the early, sort of infant or toddler stages of really knowing what it is and everything, even though I've been taking it since 2015, 16-ish, but as I studied more and more, I started just sampling all these products with very low THC, because I kept hearing about the benefits of all the other cannabinoids which cannabinoid is just plant-based compound. So it's a plant compound that, agrees with our We have an endocannabinoid system that's
That's what
comprised.
I wanted to ask you. And wait,
Okay.
I wanted to ask you about that. So, but first of all, for anybody who's listening, what I want you guys to know, because we're going to get a little bit into this, is that Lofa discovered, the benefits of CDB for him personally, and he started his own company, and it's called ZONEIN. And so we're going to ask him some questions about how he did it and what do we need to know about it. But I know that we all have a
Endocannabinoid system, yeah.
It's a tongue twister. And what does that mean?
It is a system comprised of cells that, signal back and forth, and it oversees everything from memory, gut health, our immune system. It's just, it's your full system, and like that's, like I said, how much time do you have for me to get into this?
Well, I just think it's amazing because you have never heard people talk about that until CDB came along. And it's I have a friend who knows so much about it, and she talks about it all the time, how it's so important for your body and to support that system. And so you came up with, and I guess a partner came up with ZONEIN. It's a full spectrum CDB. What does that mean?
Full spectrum, well, really, it's full spectrum hemp extract. So it comes from the hemp plant. Now, hemp is of the cannabis genus. So that's why when you say hemp, everyone's like, oh, weed. It's like, no, not really. Yeah, it is a cannabis plant, but it's the biggest difference is the varying amounts of THC. Industrial hemp by law is 0.3% THC or less. So they deem that, sufficient to go to all 50 states without triggering a psychoactive high. It's all the good stuff that's in the cannabis and hemp plants without the THC. And so upon taking this was 2016, I was 280 pounds. When I woke up, I had to let my feet dangle to the edge of the bed to let the blood come back to them. And then, furniture walk like a toddler over to the bathroom. Within a week or two of taking this, because it also, the endocannabinoid system, it also pain perception, or it plays a role on our opioid receptors and pain tolerance. So I remember just getting up after one of the best sleeps I've ever had and just walking straight to the bathroom. And I was like, well, that was different. Like,
oh, wow.
I was still 280, hadn't really lost any weight, but I was like, that didn't hurt like it used to hurt.
Wow.
And you notice things like that. And then specifically with, the concussions and stuff, my wife she started noticing that I was in just a more stable mood, no highs and lows. It was steady ground. So after a couple of months, I told her, I was like, hey, I'm gonna go to the gym. And she was like, yeah, right. And I don't fault her for saying it, because I tried in the past, and again, but with this newfound, pretty much lease on life, I was like, I can't tell you what it is, but my ankles and my knees and all the surgeries, it doesn't hurt like it used to, like not even just a couple of days ago, not even a week ago. And that it all plays a role, because people know CBD for stress relief and anxiety, right? And sleep. And yes, depending on the varying amounts, you can achieve those results. Generally, like heavier dose or higher doses over north of 60, 70 milligrams, it'll have a sedative effect, bringing you down. But in low milligrams, which is what I was taking, around 15 to 30, it can have a mental clarity aspect, and really work cognitively, on the things that were wrong in my brain. And so like anything else, it starts with mental health. If you don't have that, you're not going to have your physical or emotional health. And
or it won't matter. Right.
And it came down to really the three things that all athletes know: sleep, diet, and exercise. And like it put those things, like I was saying, I'm 235 right now. I've held this weight for like 4 years, work out every day. I've been more productive in my, business, and, even more in the moment, hence zone in with my family, not just physically there, but I'm there present moment. And so in creating a brand, I was like, yo, I mean, I was telling everybody when I was on my journey, I was like, yo, it's just put me in the zone, but it's really put my life back into focus. So hence zone in, and every athlete knows about being in the zone. Everybody knows about being, it's the place of your best, your peak performance. And, I'm just grateful for everything this plan's done for me.
So it helps with anxiety, pain relief, depression, sleep issues, and it helped you with that across the board.
I still do have all those, but I deal with them properly now. I don't, I know what stress triggers are now. It's made me realize, like, okay, we came to this point and we've always chosen this path. Well, maybe there's a better way, Loaf. Like, maybe we should go this way. And I can laugh about it now because I used to cry about it. I used to be like, man, what the hell is going on? What's wrong with me? Like, what's wrong with you, Loaf? Like, having those conversations. And it's, again, I'm just so grateful for everything. And you're not supposed to make claims of that it's for that, but it fixed all those things that were wrong in my life. And inflammation and stress are two of the biggest killers out there, and reducing both, it's done tremendously. And it's incredible what this is the future of health and wellness.
Absolutely. I mean, as a health coach, I think what you put in your body and the food you eat makes all the difference in the world to every system in your body, to your brain, to your endocrine system, to everything, your heart health, your mood. So, hey, you're preaching to the choir. I completely agree. And like I said, I'm not a doctor. I can't make claims that anything cures or whatever, but we can explain, the results that we've gotten personally.
Yeah. And even like you're saying, through diet, a lot of people don't understand, like, when they eat bad food, it has an effect on their mood, on their gut, which controls, happiness. And if you don't have a happy gut, you're inflamed there. I mean, you're in trouble. And I started just feeling stuff on a cellular level that was, insane. It was intense. Like, I could feel the sun on my skin when I was usually numb to that. Like, I used to, when I was a kid, I wouldn't put sunscreen on. I've already got fairly, tan skin. So, and it would always turn into a burn. But now, like, I'm so in the moment that, like, one time I was outside and I was like, ooh, is it hot out here? And like, everybody else was like, yeah, not more than usual. I was like, I'm putting some sunblock on. And they're like, well, you never put sunblock on. And so just feeling things on a deeper level was what really, even so much like the food, when I had a greasy, heavy meal, I could feel it, how it affected my mood. I could feel how it shut me down. I could feel everything. And so now I started to, like I said, we had two paths in the road. I always went right, or let's say I always went left, down the wrong road. Now I'm going down the right road. And
that's awesome. And I see you're wearing the sweatshirt. I think that's your logo, right?
It's the logo. We got the little, so it's perfectly balanced because CBD is taught to, so if I flip it upside down, it's the same exact logo. And that was done for a reason, it's balance. Balance is the key to life, key to happiness. And so in between, we got the negative space Z, right, for zone in. And then in the middle, we got the two triangles or deltas, the symbol for difference of. Some people need to come down to reach homeostasis. Some people need to come up to reach homeostasis. So it will do, in the right dosage, it will do for you what you need it to, because it's not just for sleep. I'll take a tincture during the morning or the day to just, reset and focus. And at night, I'll do probably about 60 milligrams to really bring me down and put me in a better REM sleep. So I used to sleep 8 to 9 hours. Now I'm more down to like 5.5, 6.5, because I require less sleep, because I'm getting into the REM sleep and staying there longer. So now, I mean, it is a total life changer in terms of when you get, I never knew what proper rest is. I have sleep apnea, and
Mhm.
I got the CPAP machine. I had that, when I was coaching. I had that in 2015, and I started even just using that every night. Like, it made me feel a little better. But when I started using CBE and like found out I'm talking, I used to like hit the alarm clock, like, nah, I'm staying in bed. I got another hour, I got another 30 minutes. Now I wake up like at 5 a.m., like, all right, it's time to go. And like jumping out of bed. Like, it's not like I'm like, okay, I'm up. And
People
it's,
don't know how powerful that is because sleep,
oh,
actually, I tell any of my clients, if you had to do one thing, whether it's eat right, I would say sleep is the number one. It's how your body heals itself.
how you recover. And
And I truly believe that, God has provided everything that we need on this earth to heal. And so, CDB is a natural substance. It's there for us to use, because I hear some people say, well, does it make you high or does it make you groggy? And it really doesn't. It complements your system for what you need, right?
whatever you're lacking, it brings you to balance. So, and that's, really, man, I,
It's all about homeostasis.
yeah, and I didn't know how good life could be. That's why I always wear this when I'm, talking about it or talking about, what it's done for me, is because, um, not just, okay, so 3 years, we'll have our second birthday next month, and ZONEIN CBD will, which is pretty special. But 3 years before I started this company, I was just buying quality, full spectrum, hemp extract and handing it out to family members, friends, strangers. Like, I mean, yeah, that's
This is going
how,
to help you.
man, when something saves your life, you owe it to everybody else to at least tell them. And and so, I got people that hit me up, and I'm like, yo, like, you see what it's done for me. Because I remember, what was it, when I lost all that weight, and a couple of years ago, I probably really looked like I could go back and play at 36, 37 years old.
Mm.
Uh, and everybody's like, oh, you're on steroids. Like, did you go see the doctor? And I was like, what? No, like, not yet. I mean, in a couple of years, I'm gonna maybe travel down the path of like seeing if my testosterone levels are low and all that. Because I've heard a lot of success stories from friends that,
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
just getting all the levels, to where it should be. But I was like, CBD, man, that's literally, it's all I've done, other than, which led to me a better understanding of my own self and my own system, which, like I said, the quality of sleep, and then the foods that I eat. Food's supposed to fuel you, as you know. It shouldn't make you want to go lay down and take a nap.
Right, exactly. And I don't know if you struggle with anxiety or anything like that. I know that the CDB helps with that. I also recommend, meditation and,
Yeah.
and things like that for people. But so firsthand that can help people, and it can actually help anyone, but it also can help maybe those former players or athletes that are really hurting, that it may help them, that it's worthwhile. But what about the normal, what about the wives and the kids, because I help women who are living in a household with a former athlete that might be struggling with CTE, and they have mood swings, and hopefully if they use CDB, that will calm it down. But there's a level of stress and anxiety on the family of how to react, how to do the right thing. Is CDB something that's good as well for the wives, the moms, and the kids?
Absolutely. CBD, I think is good for anybody, and the only, like, because I always, I'm not, I don't ever want to come off as a salesman. So I've actually talked people out of CBD, like, a person like yourself who's a health coach. And, if you're getting your sleep, you're eating right, you're doing bad foods and stuff in moderation, then you probably don't need CBD, but I'm human. I still mess up. And so, but I just, as an anti-inflammatory, not just for the, my body, but for my brain, because as I mentioned with, CTE, now it's a neurodegenerative disease. CBD is a neuroprotectant. Does this mean it can reverse the damage? I don't know, but I think it can limit the effects that come with CTE, mood swings, irritability, irrational behavior, things, the stuff that comes along with brain injury, serious brain injury. So, but in general, for the wives who I feel for, because my wife, I mean, she went through it just like seeing me just sit there and like, yo, what's wrong? And I don't know what to tell her. Like, I was like, look, I don't know. And, I went all the routes of talking to a therapist and trying to, figure out, get to the root of it. But you're battling you're fighting a battle that, a lot of it's unknown. Like it's damage that's been done. And can you reverse it? I mean, I feel like a different man. So I'm not going to say it's completely reversed, but I'm incredibly, I think it's really needs to be a sought after option for not just, the former player, but definitely the spouse and the support system that, they're going through a lot of stress. And, when you have your stress levels reduced, you can see so much more clear. You can, you can react to situations objectively rather than subjected to the emotions or the heat of the moment, right? So a case in point like that, even just several years before having CBD, I used to have very bad road rage, very bad. I would drive down, follow you, I would get out of the car.
It's easy to have road rage.
There's a lot of people that have road rage because it's a fight or flight mechanism. It's a situation happened, and someone, especially a former athlete, this is where when confrontation goes down, I know how to solve this with violence. Yeah, okay. It's not the way it should be done, but there are everyday individuals that need anger management because, they did get into a road rage incident where they literally they're out of their mind for that second, right? If you're taking CBD and it can actually, keep you even keel, keep you balanced, you're not gonna, case in point, I've had people, cut me off, flip me off. And normally I was like, yeah, no, here we go, pull over. But now the last 4 or 5 years since I've been taking it, I just turn my music up louder and just smile and wave, which makes them more mad. And I actually should stop waving, but.
Well, for one thing I wanted to mention is it reversible? Well, first of all, like we know, inflammation is the root of all disease. I mean, disease starts when there's inflammation. And so if you can reduce that inflammation, and then also our body, we have a new body almost every 7 years. We literally, cells die and 300,000 new cells happen every second. So you have a new spleen every few months, you have a new, liver. It takes, some it's a few years, some it's a few months. So I believe, that there's a possibility that you can reverse that if you have the right lifestyle, if you're taking the products that will reduce inflammation and you're putting your body in the best environment to when new cells come along, that they're good.
That they're trained and ready to go. Yeah, you're not, yeah. And that's especially with the sleep, I can't tell you, when you got a good night's rest, if you've had one before, you wake up just energized. You're like, okay, I feel like a kid again, like almost waking up singing. But it's done so much because I've been reading a book about the brain. It's done so much for the part of the brain that controls not just emotion, but memory. Because when I was leaving the game at 30, I was going through a lot of cognitive deficits, memory loss. No memory retention, trouble focusing. I couldn't even sit down and focus long enough to read. in the last couple of years, I've read more books in my life than I have years prior, which I think it's done something there for, in terms of the learning or the mental capacity to the ability to learn new information. I was never was always a visual learner or audio. Like if we have a conversation, I'll remember details about that forever. But if I had to read it, I I forget it. My reading comprehension was poor, like, and it had nothing to do with the vocabulary or anything. It was just I wasn't present moment. And so now with the sleep, on point, with the diet, there, I'm finding that I'm still growing as a person, long after when everybody said the prime was, 10, 15 years ago. It's been incredible how it's helped me, really thrive as a person.
Well, to me, that's really exciting too, because as long as you have that desire to keep learning and reading, that really boosts your own confidence that you are capable of learning new things and doing new things. And so even just for that alone, I do have to say thank you to you and Linnea for sending me some products. And I would say my results, because I've never had a hard time sleeping, but I have recently in my older years have woken up very anxious in the morning, and I don't know why. Like I have no idea why I have this anxiety in the morning, like something's going to go wrong, or so what do I have to do today? And taking the CBD has really helped me when I wake up in the morning, really just be calm and present. So that has been a game changer. And then the roller, love the roller to help with the muscles and everything. So you have a few products. Do you want to tell, before we wrap up, do you want to tell our listeners a couple of is it 3 basic products that you have?
Yeah, we just released our 4th. So we have the traditional oil dropper, which, it's about 60, it's 500 milligrams in the bottle, and the same as the capsule. A lot of people have been preferring the capsule. Everyone's different. You really got to spend time and figure out your doses and what you like. And the way I tell people to find out their doses, like you just for a day or two, probably a day to 3 days, just take like, 1 in the morning and maybe 1 at night. Just see if you notice anything, if you notice, less pain, less, irritability, anything like you can think of that was better in the day. And then if you don't really feel anything has really happened, you could go up to like 2, and 2 in 1. So 3 times a day. But it's the only time you'll find your threshold is because we all have different thresholds. If you get very tired on it, I've had people say, oh, I did 1 dropper and I took a nap. Well, one, you're probably, I know my buddy, he's a 4 a.m. guy, doesn't go to bed until like midnight, like he grinds around the clock. I go, yo, that was your body telling you, yo, this is not sustainable. We are not doing well. Yeah, we are not doing well. Like, so your body shuts you down. It wasn't really the oil but because then the next few days, I mean, it was crazy. He's like, dude, I've never slept past my alarm. His alarm's at like 4:30. And he said he texted me at 6 a.m. and he's on the East Coast. So it's 3 a.m. in my time. Of course, I answered him. I'm like, yeah, bro, it's only 3 a.m. over here. Like, I got 2 more hours. He's like, I've never felt this good waking up. And I was like, yeah, because you've never had real rest. And so it's it's incredible what it's done for so many people. Like I said, this is why I started the business, because I have so many stories that, they're private, but they mean the world to me. And they put me on a mission to go spread the word as much as I could, because it's changing people's lives for the better. So our other product, as you mentioned, Roll Deep, it's a roller that's a topical that, everyone's starting to love. I had to release one that did not burn, because everybody that's used to taking topicals are like, well, I want the burn. I was like, well, when I always took the burn, I never felt like it really did anything except for put my skin on fire. So yeah, underneath didn't really hurt because I'm like, feel like I'm burning. So I was on a search after it had to be like 50 or 60 products. I finally found one formulation that I was like, yo, and every product that we put out, I have sampled and journaled and logged for at least 3 to 6 months. So it's not, that's why we only have a product suite of 4 products. My team's not happy with me, but That's their problem. Like, it better work. It better work if I'm putting my name on it. And so this one is the best formulation I ever had. And then I'm pleased to announce in a month or two, we'll be releasing our fifth product, which is the extra or the heat version. So it'll be real deep plus heat. Yeah. So I found one that finally works. It's, doesn't burn the skin. So like you don't know if it's like the heat or not. It's soothing, but it is warming sensation, and it's incredible. But then our fourth product that we released just about first quarter this year, maybe March or April, it's an energy mix, and it's almost like a hybrid of a pre-workout. And we released it as an energy mix because I'm used to taking pre-workout, and like if it didn't get me like going, then I was like, no one else is gonna like it that takes pre-workout. But this one, I had the best workout of my life. The mind-body connection was so intense because of the ingredients on top of CBD, alpha GPC, beta alanine. They got all the good stuff in there. Ton of vitamin C. That's all good for motor recruitment. And I remember having the best like back workout of my life. And then I went in the gym and I didn't miss a shot in basketball, which is very rare. I'm not really a shooter. And I was like, yo, I'm sold. And I took that for like 3 months, and I was like, this is the formulation we're going to market with. And so, we're trying to, we believe in movement. We're founded by a bunch of athletes. And so, as we always, sleep, diet, exercise is really, if you can get that zoned in, you will be living your best life. And so just trying to continue to educate people on what it is, what it isn't, and keep putting out great products that work, because that I use every day. I use all those products every day.
Well, I'll tell you, you and I both really only want people to be healthy and for them to feel good and to, get the most out of this body that we have. And so CDB is good for everyone, but everyone has to figure out what's best for them. So we're not, I'm not sitting here telling everybody to use CDB, but what I'm saying is if you're struggling in any of these areas, whether it's sleep, whether it's anxiety, whether it's cognitive issues, whether it's highs and lows, why not try it and see? And so, and I want to thank you. I've got a coupon code to be able to give the listeners that Linnea sent over to me. So anybody who's interested in trying it, I have a coupon code. I will put that in the show notes for anybody that's interested. And, Lofa, I know that there are probably some people out there right now in our audience that are struggling with life right now, whether it's their circumstances. Is there any encouragement that you'd like to share for them?
Keep going. It's never easy. This is life, right? And but you got to be grateful for every moment, and find your why. For your existence, and mine is my family. I know that, and I'll always keep fighting for them. And so, but we're here for you as a community too. You can follow us. We post workouts and videos, and just people living life to the fullest, because that's whether you're happy or sad. All unfortunately, it's inevitable that we won't be here forever. So do not take it for granted, and just live life to the fullest, because
now do you do that with your wife and kids? Do you guys work out together, or
I got to get the kids working out with school starting up, so I want to put them in sports again, because they haven't had any sports. They were in baseball a year ago, and with everything that happened, no one was doing baseball out here. And so it was challenging. It was trying times, right? But with the right perspective, which is what I feel like I've been blessed with as of recent, is that man, my kids are already 10 and 7, and where did that time go?
You will never regret spending more time with your kids.
Oh, ever. And so, was it tough? Yeah, it was tough. I felt for, my wife too, but man, I mean, the house has been pretty quiet the last 3 days, and it's kind of sad, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm now an empty nester and all this. I'm like, really? Like they're all, my youngest is 19, my oldest is 26. So it does go fast. And my husband is such a great dad, but he's had to miss a lot of things as a coach. And if he really sat down and thought about it, it would probably crush him.
Yeah.
And he knows it, but he's a great dad and he's there all the time that he can be there, and he reaches out all the time. So, but you staying with your kids and spending more time with them, I totally respect that, because
football will be there when I want to go back. It'll be there.
Absolutely, it sure will. Well, Lofa, I love to end each podcast with the same question for every guest.
Okay.
So this podcast is called the Honor It All podcast. So what are you choosing to honor today?
Ooh, that's a good one. I want to honor it all now. You for having me on the show, but you know, with September hitting and 11 coming up, you know, the servicemen and women, the veterans, I think that's, you know, especially time right now with the 13 that we just lost, you know, my heart goes out to them and their families. And, you know, I thank them for fighting for our freedom. It's, man, it's a tough duty they take, and, you know, love and respect to all of them. And I hope we get everybody back, man.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. That's a great thing to honor for sure. I appreciate it. And really that's it, folks. I mean, what a perfect way to end this episode with Lofa Tatupu. And Lofa, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Anna, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And remember, everyone, we are not promised tomorrow. So be present today. That is the gift. And take time to honor it all.